What if you could turn any PDF, ebook, Word document, or script into a realistic audiobook directly on your Mac? No internet connection, no monthly character limits, no uploading your files to the cloud. And what if you could even create multi-character narrations where every character has a different voice? That's exactly what TTS-free AI claims to do. In this video, I'm going to test everything from PDF to audiobook conversion and script mode to custom voice creation, multiple languages, batch processing, and more to see whether this software is actually worth using. Text-to-speech software has become incredibly popular. Content creators use it for YouTube videos, authors use it for audiobooks, students use it to listen to research papers. Businesses use it for training materials. The problem is that most AI voice generators rely on cloud processing. That means your files must be uploaded online, there are often usage limits, and subscriptions can become expensive. TTS-free AI takes a different approach. Everything runs locally on your Mac. Your documents stay on your computer. And according to the developers, there are no character limits or token restrictions. Let's install it and see how it works. Downloading and installing TTS-free AI is straightforward. At the time of installation, it will download language package for the offline use, which may take a bit longer if you have slow internet connection. After launching the installer, the software opens into a clean interface. At first glance, you'll notice several major sections. The main TTS workspace, a task manager, the voice library, voice design, voice fine-tuning, and a future voice cloning section which is currently marked as beta. The interface is simple enough for beginners while still offering advanced functionality for creators. The first thing that impressed me was the voice library. The software includes hundreds of voices. You can browse male and female voices with different accents and speaking styles. For English users, there are voices from the United States, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, India, and more. One important note, if you're worried about monetization, these AI voices can be used in monetized content such as YouTube videos. However, if you plan to use them for commercial products or client work, be sure to check the licensing terms first. This gives creators flexibility depending on the type of content they are producing. For example, a professional American narrator for YouTube, a calm British voice for documentaries, an Australian accent for storytelling, or a female voice for educational content. The library makes switching between voices extremely fast, and because everything is generated locally, previews happen quickly. Now let's look at one of the strongest features, document conversion. Instead of manually copying text, you can simply import files. This includes PDFs, Word documents, EPUB ebooks, PicTT files, spreadsheets, and several other formats. You can import whole folder into the project, as I do in this example. For this demonstration, I'm importing a PDF document. After selecting a voice, TTS-free AI automatically converts the content into speech. This is extremely useful for students, researchers, audiobook creators, and professionals who prefer listening rather than reading. Imagine turning a 200-page ebook into audio and listening to it while driving, exercising, or working. That's where this feature becomes genuinely useful. This is probably the most unique feature in the software. Script mode. Most text-to-speech applications assume there is only one speaker, but stories, podcasts, and dialogue-based content often involve multiple characters. With script mode, TTS-free AI automatically detects different speakers. You can then assign a different voice to each character. For example, the narrator can have one voice, John can have another voice, Sarah can have a completely different voice. With one click, the software generates the entire conversation. For audiobook creators and storytellers, this can save a tremendous amount of editing time. Instead of generating every line separately, the software handles the process automatically. Another interesting feature is voice design. Instead of choosing an existing voice, you can describe the type of voice you want. For example, a warm, calm female voice with a clear American accent speaking naturally and gently. After entering the description, the software generates a voice matching those characteristics. What makes this feature even more useful is multilingual support. At the moment, multiple languages are available including English, French, Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, Chinese, Mandarin, Korean, and additional languages are expected in future updates. For creators working with international audiences, this flexibility is extremely valuable. If you're working on large projects, batch processing can save significant time. Instead of generating one document at a time, multiple files can be queued and processed together. This is especially useful for audiobook production, educational content, and podcast workflows. There is also a voice cloning section currently listed as beta. While it isn't fully available yet, future updates are expected to allow users to create AI voices based on their own recordings. This could become one of the most powerful features for content creators when officially released. After testing TTS-free AI, I think its biggest strengths are very clear. Offline processing, privacy, document to audio conversion, multi-character script mode, voice design, large voice library, and unlimited local generation. For students, researchers, audiobook creators, YouTubers, podcasters, and professionals, it offers a practical workflow that can save a considerable amount of time. The fact that everything runs directly on your Mac is probably its biggest advantage over many cloud-based alternatives. If you'd like to try TTS-free AI for yourself, I'll leave the download link in the description below. Let me know in the comments which feature you find most useful, the PDF to audiobook conversion, the multi-character script mode, or the custom voice creation feature. Thanks to TTS-free AI for sponsoring this video, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.